So then, as I said, when we do this literature, right, review in research, contextualizing the research, background information, right. So then reviewing the relevant literature, and under the reviewing literature, identify the key themes, summarizing the previous finding. So it summarizes the findings and methodologies of previous studies relevant to the current research question. And so you identify the problem and create the questions, and you have to give some sort of a support to that research question by summarizing the previous research findings and establish a knowledge base. So it builds a foundation of knowledge, right? It builds a foundation of knowledge that the current study will build upon, right? Showing how the proposed research extend or challenges the existing understanding. Establish the knowledge base based on the literature, right? So it builds based on the literature only, they can build the foundation of the knowledge. And theories and frameworks, already we discussed about that. Then you can understand researchers often integrate relevant theoretical frameworks, right? Or conceptual models that inform their study. This include explain the key concepts, definitions, relationship that underpin the research approach. Like already we had discussed about service quality. Parasuraman and others created that model, SERQUAL model, and the dimensions they identified to measure the service quality, like that. So for your assignment for the social media campaign, you can read you can search in the net and you can find some relevant studies, and you can find the theories related to the social media campaign. Science researchers often integrate the relevant theoretical frameworks or conceptual models that inform their study. This includes explaining the key concepts, definitions, and relationships that underpin the research approach. And then setting the scope, right? Contextualizing the research also helps define the scope of the study. So scopes of the study, so then it gives some most useful information by delineating what has been studied before, but gaps exist, and how the current study aims to contribute to the filling those gaps is the scope, right? So that means you can talk about the previous studies and their findings, and you can say there is a gap in the knowledge. So then your study can fill the gap by doing the research. That is the scope of the study. And right, so then that also with the help of the literature only, you can say what other research already have, right, conducted, and something missing. If you read the literature only, you can find these things. And justification for the study also by synthesizing the existing literature. Synthesizing means summarizing. The researchers justify why the current study is necessary, right? So then why? Because social media campaign, as I said, because there are a lot of several topics may be available in the marketing, right, field. Why is a particular social media campaign? What is the significance of studying the social media campaign? So why that also you can summarize the previous studies. They have mentioned the importance or significance of the social media campaign. So then you can give the summary of previous studies. And this justification can be based on the identifying unresolved questions. That means unanswered questions, contradictory findings, because sometimes some researchers find something, and another researchers are finding another thing, and another researchers are finding another thing. There is no any concrete alignment with the three findings. So then it is contradicting each other. So that's why another research may be right support to find the right so the view. So give a concrete findings like that. Emerging trends also they can identify as a justification and practical implications that warrant the future investigation. Practical implications mean by doing this research, by how the findings can be used in the practical scenarios to improve the practical setting, right? How their marketing managers can use this in their marketing strategies as a practical aspects. So then these things all can be given by this literature review. And establishing the rationale. Another thing, establishing the rationale in a research study is crucial for justifying why the study is necessary, right? How it contributes to the existing body of knowledge. It is a detailed explanation. When you are writing the literature survey as a separate chapter or section on your research work, and you have to give in this way, right? Establish the rationale of this research, right? So then identify the gaps in the knowledge. Researchers begin by identifying gaps or deficiencies in current knowledge within their field of study. So in the field of study, there are research, but there are some research not fulfilling the requirements, or sometimes there may be a gap in the knowledge gap. So then these gaps could arise from the unanswered questions, conflicting findings, emerging issues that have not been sufficiently explored. Then by you mentioning or summarizing the previous studies, you can give this gap is existing. That's why you are doing a research to fulfill the gap and highlight the contradictions and the inconsistencies. Right, contradictions means there may be some different right findings. So inconsistencies means one finding is not in line with another finding. So that's why uh, the assignment is individual, right? So then use highlight the contradictions or inconsistencies, and recognizing the areas requiring further exploration also. So beyond gaps and contradictions, researchers may identify areas that are underexplored or have not been adequately addressed in previous studies, right? So that's why beyond gaps, right? After the finding the gaps, and beyond the gaps and contradictions. So contradiction means the different findings. Researchers may identify areas that are underexplored. Underexplored means so they are not fully explored or have not been adequately addressed in previous studies. This could include the new methodologies, population, context, and what warrant the investigations like that. And framing the research questions, so hypothesis also with the help of the literature. So that's why literature is the very essential part of the research. So that's why I try to explain it, but sometimes you may have difficulties to understand, but when you go through this document, you can understand clearly. Why you doing the assignment also, you can put some effort to read some materials, and writing it, you can get ideas. So based on the identified gaps, contradictions, or areas needing a further exploration, right? Further exploration means further studies, research formulae, right? A clear and focused research questions or hypothesis. These questions or hypotheses should be specific enough to guide the study's objectives and methods while addressing the identified gaps or issues. And another one is just justifying the significance of the study. So the rationale also involves explaining why filling these gaps. Like previously we discussed about the significance of the study. Here you can give a justification of the significance of the study. It is also why we want to do the why we want to resolve the contradiction, why we want to explore in the new areas. Important. This justification can be based on the theoretical contribution, practical implications, policy relevance, potential benefit to society, like that. Because you can say, by doing the research, the findings can support the practical things, right? Managers can use in practice. Then some research, the findings can help to formulate the policies. Sometimes the research finding can help to the society. Like that, you can give the justification by doing the research, by reading the literature, right? And positioning the study within the literature. Finally, the rationale situates the study within the broader scholarly context. It demonstrates how the proposed research extends existing knowledge. The challenges established theories or applies existing theories in a new ways. And another one, identify the key concepts and variables. Already we have discussed this one because, forming research, right? Theory framework also we discussed about conceptual framework and formulates, and that also based on the literature, right? So identify the key concepts and variables in research study involves clarifying fundamental elements that are central to understanding the investigation that phenomena under study. Here is the detailed explanation of these key concepts. These are the main ideas or principles that the study resolves around, and they provide a framework for understanding the research topic, and they identify the key concepts. So that's why defining the terms, clearly define the important terms and concepts related to the study to ensure consistency understanding. That's why already we in the under the conceptual framework, and what are the variables, what are the relationships, what are the operationalization of that concept, everything based on this one. And describe the relationship, explain how these concepts relate to each other and contribute to the overall understanding of the research problem. then how you can write this one? By reading the relevant literatures only, you can find this relationship, right? So you sometimes social media campaign may be new to you. By reading a relevant article related to the social media campaign, you can identify earlier researchers have mentioned the relationship between variable and concept and definitions, and you can use that for USN. And variables are specific measurable characteristic or attributes. Already we discussed about variables are varies, right? So variables are specific measurable characteristics or attributes that can change or vary across the different subjects in your study. They are used to operationalize the concepts under investigation. So identifying variables involves independent variables, right? That also we discussed about, right? These are variables that are manipulated or controlled by a researcher to observe the effect on the variable, right? And dependent variable, these are variables that are measured or observed to determine the effect of the independent variables. So then you can define these variables by reading the relevant literature and theoretical framework also. These are established theories or models that provide a structure for understanding the relationship between variables and explaining the phenomena. Identifying theoretical frameworks involves selecting appropriate theories, choosing theories or conceptual models that align with the research questions and objectives. So, right, so when you are creating these conceptual model or methodology, right, you have to give a justification how you can select this variable, how you can select this concept, right? So then you have to give a justification. Already these the concepts and the variables have established or right used in the previous research, right? So then you can give that citation as evidence, and that is a way you have to write a scientific research. So applying theories using the frameworks to guide the formulation of hypothesis, interpretation of the results, and discussion of the findings. Also, you have to use the previous research. It's not only the literature survey, is not only on the literature section of the research, but the literature can give from the beginning to end of the research, right? Beginning may be the introduction part, end of the part may be the finding and conclusion. In between, literature is a separate section, talk about these concepts and variables and theories and the relationship and hypothesis. And the methodology part, how you can write and formulate the conceptual model, and again you have to give operationalization with the support. Even when you are creating the measures also, you have to give a citations or literature support, how you can write the questions and data analysis part also. You can give why you want to select the particular methodology, then you have to give a citation. Even sample selection also, you have to give a citation. Why you are selecting the particular sample method and what are the benefits, how this method is used by the previous researchers, and analysis, why you want to select the particular analysis to test the hypothesis, and finding. You can give the finding, you can say the previous, your finding is supporting with the previous studies, or you can write your findings contradicting with the previous studies, like that. Even conclusion and the future research, everything now with the help of a literature. Now you can understand literature is not a single entity in a research. Literature is the whole aspects, right? Even from the beginning to end, you have to use the literature, right? Literature in the sense we are using, you have to give a, you have to read the previous research and you have to adapt their strategies. So then establishing a common understanding, clarifying the key concepts and variable help to ensure that all stakeholders, researchers, readers, participants have a shared understanding of the study's focus on objectives. So then this common understanding from the basis of effective communication and interpretation of research outcomes. And theoretical foundation also, previously also we discussed, by identifying key concept, variable, theoretical framework, research established a solid theoretical foundation for their study, right? So then my research, uh, sometimes you don't know that sometimes researchers, recently I was the chairperson of the one research, right, symposium. One researcher presented the research work, and one right audience asked a question about what is your theoretical right support, what is your underpinning theory, also what are the theories you are using. And they said, no, we don't use any theory. But actually So theoretical underpinning or using the theory is, when you are creating a concept or whatever it is from the previous theories, you use as a previous theory as a base. From that only you can create, you can start your work. So that's why theory is the base, right? This foundation supports the rationale for research, informs the methodology, guides the data collection analysis, and frame the interpretation and results. Now you can understand this foundation, theoretical foundation, give the rationale for the research and inform the methodology also based on the theoretical foundation, and guides the data collection and analysis and frames the interpretation of results, right? So then comparing and contrasting studies also, that also part of the literature. When we are reading the previous research, we try to find the similar studies, then we can compare. So contrasting studies and some different opinions or findings of the studies. So comparing and contrasting studies in the context of research involves systematically analyzing and synthesizing. Synthesizing means summarizing the findings from previous studies in a particular field or topic area. Here is how this process helps to position current research and contribute to the existing knowledge, right? So by comparing and contrasting the previous studies, how it can help to the particular research. So synthesizing the findings, so that summarizing, as the researchers first gather and review a range of relevant studies that address similar related research questions. This involves summarizing the key findings, identify the main conclusion, results, and methodology used in each study, then highlighting the consistencies and discrepancies, means differences, noting where the studies agree or disagree on a particular aspects of the topic, right? This is a way when you are reading a research paper, first you try to get their methodology. You can cite what is the methodology they are using, right? Another one, how you can use, you can get a conclusion, right? What is the main points in the conclusion? Results, what is the main result? What is the methodology? You can summarize. You can take it as a form. For each studies, you have to take a notes about these things, and you can compile this one. Identify pattern and trends. Through comparison, researchers can identify patterns or trends across multiple studies, right? This might include common these themes or theories, right? Recognizing a recurring themes. Recurring means again and again the particular theme is appearing from the different research or theoretical framework that appears in different studies. And evaluation of knowledge, tracking how understanding of the topic has developed over time through successive studies. Because you see in 1980s how they think about that particular concept, in 90s how they have right, what other researchers use another knowledge, and at present what is the situation of the topic. Now you see the evolution of knowledge in a different time period. So that also you can mention by summarizing the studies and evaluating the methodological approaches. So then comparing studies also involves assessing the strength and limitations of different research method and design used. So this includes experimental versus observational methods, and contrasting experimental studies that manipulate variables with observational studies that observe natural behaviors, and quantitative versus qualitative approach, comparing studies that use a numerical data analysis with those that employ qualitative data collection and interpretation, and positioning the current research. So this is a way, right, to compare and contrast the studies. Positioning. So by comparing and contrasting existing studies, researchers can position their own research within the broader scholarly conversation. This include identify the gaps or areas needing further investigation, highlighting where previous studies may have left unanswered questions or produced conflicting results, and justify the novelty or importance, the significance of the current study, demonstrating how the proposed research builds upon challenges, extend existing knowledge, and so then suggesting offering a position, comparing, contrasting the studies, research contribute to the advanced knowledge in the field of study by offering insights, new perspective, suggesting future research direction, right? So there are recommending areas where additional research needed to solve inconsistencies or expand the understanding. So then I think we can stop here and